Good morning, my name is Nicholas Hecko and I'm a watchmaker.
Hello, I'm Andrew. I'm also a watchmaker.
Andrew, a couple of weeks ago we recorded a very funny video, us trying to pronounce Russian watch names
Yeah.
and brands.
Well, you pronouncing them and me attempting to. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a setup, thank you. You know I'm not Russian, so you put me on the spot. So we had a lot of fun filming, but what happened after we uploaded video to YouTube, it was a disaster.
Yeah, the results weren't there.
We're a small channel. We got literally no views. 2 days, 3 days later, I got really, really upset about it. I thought we deserve at least some views, and I set the channel private with intention to delete it. But then I asked AI, YouTube assistant, what are we doing wrong? Why is this video not recommended to viewers? And the answer was, well, in the title and thumbnail, we have a Russian and Soviet, and these terms are not popular right now.
Okay, fair enough. Yep.
But we were not talking about Russia or Soviet Union. We were talking about watches.
Yeah, of course.
And I thought that was unfair. So what I did, I actually changed thumbnail. I put a thumbnail in Russian. I told AI, screw you. I don't care what you want me to do. I'll do what I want. And funny enough, immediately the video took off. And now we have over 25,000 views on that video.
25,000.
Yeah, a lot of Russians. They loved it. And we should do a follow-up video on that one. But today, we're talking about a pocket watch that is far more important than anything modern.
Yeah.
It is what you call CZ, pocket watch made in 1940s. Why is it important? It is important because the story behind the factory where the watch was made is one of the most powerful horological stories of all times.
For sure.
Please read it.
On June 22nd, 1941, Nazi Germany attacked Soviet Russia. The operation, known as Barbarossa, was the biggest single land operation in the history of the wars. The surprise was complete. In just a few months, Leningrad was under siege, Crimea was conquered, and the Germans were on Moscow's doorstep. 5 million Russian soldiers and civilians were killed in 5 months. There was no time to be wasted. The first Moscow watch factory had to be evacuated. A convoy of 170 trucks loaded with watchmaking machinery and 488 machinists and technicians was en route to Chistopol, a small town located on the Kama River in Tatarstan, 1,000 kilometers east of Moscow. Severe winter weather caused delays, but by the spring of 1942, the newly established Chistopol watch factory was fully operational, manufacturing both pocket watches and wrist watches. Like all military facilities, Chistopol was designated a number, Factory 835. While its main activity was the production of watches, Chistopol Watch Factory also produced magnetic fuses and various other military devices. However, the 488 evacuated watchmakers were not enough to meet war production demand, so the factory employed and trained local boys and girls as young as 14 and 15 years of age. World War II ended in 1945. The Soviets defeated the Germans at an enormous cost. Over 26 million Russian soldiers and civilians lost their lives. But Muscovite watchmakers didn't return home. They stayed in Tatarstan, continuing to make civilian wrist watches, and the Chistopol watch factory was renamed simply to Vostok, East.
Being uprooted from your town just because you're a watchmaker. The largest migration of watchmakers,
488, yep.
88, almost 500 of them with their families uprooted.
I'm just trying to think now, with all the wars going on, what would happen if our government said, okay, Andrew, you now have to go to Perth. I couldn't think of anything worse.
You will have no choice, and that's life.
Yep.
Again, we're not talking about anything military related or even Soviet related. We are talking about those watchmakers who had to move 1,000 kilometers east and start a new life.
And how important their skills were, that was actually an option for the for the government to do.
So this pocket watch that we're featuring today was made in 1948 in Chastopolski Czasowny Zawod, Church's factory.
Yep.
And this is why it's so important. It is also important for another reason. I think, actually, judging by the comments in the previous video, most Russians are not aware of their horological history.
Yeah.
Some of them have probably never heard of Church's.
Yeah. Well, this is, I suppose, pre-Iron Curtain, history, so it may have been lost over time, I suppose.
So the purpose of today's video is to empower you to go online and look for this very pocket watch. And they're still available, they're not expensive, and preserve your national history.
Yeah.
We preserve our national history, Australian pocket watches. We love Australian railway pocket watches.
Yep. A lot of
We
peerless watches. Yep.
We even collect New Zealand railway pocket watches. We collect Italian pocket watches.
New Zealand is the state of Australia, so that's fun.
Yeah, we collect. I have Greek pocket watch, ex Yugoslav pocket watches, Swiss, you name it. Those watches are important for national preservation of national horological history. So we are just guardians. Right. How to buy this watch online?
That's the difficult part, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you do first? If you see it on eBay, for example, what would you do?
Well, if it doesn't have photos of the inside, I'd be asking for photos of inside the case back and the actual movement itself.
Because those numbers inside the watch are the most important numbers.
Yeah.
They will help us identify the watch and find out when it was made and so on. Right. So first thing to look on is what's written on a dial.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
It's Chastopolski Czasowny Zawod, or Church's. That is often misinterpreted in English as 443, right?
Yeah.
But it's really Church's.
Yeah.
Another lot of numbers and writing to look for is the stamp 15 joules, or in Russian it is 15 kamnei, meaning literally 15 stones.
If you're Russian in the comments, please let us know the pronunciation. Thank you.
And underneath is a number that is one numeral dash a year. So in my case, it's 2-48, meaning that this particular watch was manufactured in second quarter of 1948.
Cool.
Okay. The other number on the case back is CK-6,
Okay.
which is what?
That's the caliber. That's the actual caliber itself. Yeah.
Right. And by construction, you are being a watchmaker, you can easily recognize this 15 joule movement being what?
So this has actually come from the Quarterbear 620.
Yep. Swiss movement.
Yeah, Swiss movement.
Yep.
That movement actually, we should do a video on Quarterbear. It has an amazing history. But that movement is actually the basis for a lot of movements. Was sold to Rolex, IWC, Panerai, and it became the ETA 6498, which is what we used in our first watches, in the Rebelde watches you can see above here. And it's the architecture that we used for our Nicholas Hacko range. But that movement almost saved the Swiss watch industry. Yeah.
Right. And again, CK-6 is a copy of Quarterbear movement.
Yeah.
The other number is the serial number of the watch. Again, in my pocket watch, number is 373764. And what is very interesting is that we're talking about 1940s, where watches were not really industrialized in a Swiss sense of parts interchangeability, meaning that each movement was hand finished.
Yeah, so they would have been
to a certain degree.
Yeah, produced en masse to rough specifications, and then say for example each hole for the jewel was slightly undersized, and then they would go to the various watchmakers who would assemble them, and they would ream the hole perfectly for the jewel. That way the manufacturing process didn't have to be so accurate, and therefore could be much faster and much cheaper.
Right, and curiosity is that, for example, balance wheel cock is also stamped with the last three digits, 764, meaning what?
So you'll see this often actually if you pull apart pocket watches. The pocket watch serial number, the last 2 or 3 digits usually, is put underneath every bridge, hopefully. And what you'll get when you open it up is you see that that is a matched set. It's a family. So as the watchmaker is adjusting each individual bridge that's come from the sort of manufacturing department, they're adjusting, they're making sure it all fits. That bridge may not fit on the next watchmaker's main plate. So each bridge has the last few digits of the serial number. That way you know it's a matched set.
And the curiosity on this one is that they went even further. So there's a 62, last 2 digits, hand engraved on the balance wheel.
Yeah.
So again, you have to think how servicing process work. Watch could have been pulled apart, and then number of watches of same caliber overhauled, cleaned, and then reassembled.
Yeah.
So those numbering systems help with assembly.
Yeah, of course.
Now, the last number is the number stamped on a case back, and it literally reads GOST, G-O-S-T, GOST 918-41.
I should say that's GOST in Cyrillic.
Yeah.
It reads to me R-O-C-T, but it's pronounced GOST.
And this is the probably piece of information numbering that causes the most confusion, right? Because you look at the case back, and that -41 is often translated as year 1941.
Yeah.
But we know that factory was established in 1942.
Okay.
So what is GOST?
I'm not sure.
It's a Russian industrial standard, right?
Okay.
DIN is German.
Yeah.
Australian is
AS, I think.
AS
we have a
something?
few different ones.
right. So basically, on a case back, GOST 918-41 means that this watch is according to standard industrial standard Act 918, issued in year 1941. Nothing to do with the actual manufacturing.
It does look like a reference. It looks like a movement reference or something, yeah.
Okay. These are the things that you have to ask your seller to take close-ups so you can determine a manufacturing year of your watch, and also whether it's original or put together from bits and pieces. Again, cheap, affordable. I also found this photo online. This is your typical Russian watch factory.
Wow.
This one is of Chistopolsky Zavod.
Yep.
What do you see there? Have a look at
You
this.
see a very industrious group of ladies all assembling, literally shoulder to shoulder. You know, like they're cramped into this room. And we've got
There's a one man in a room.
there's one man, he looks like an officer maybe. He's kind of,
Yep.
scoping everything out, making sure it's all working.
And there are
then two pictures
on a wall. Can you recognize who is on a wall?
They're very pixelated, but I'm pretty sure one is Lenin and one is Stalin.
Right.
So-
Okay, so my pocket watch, this one, was most likely, highly likely, made by those ladies. And where were the men?
fighting, I guess.
Yeah, on the front line.
Yeah, depending on the time, yeah.
So, to those ladies, we salute.
Thank you very much.
Question.
How's the timekeeping of the pocket watch?
How is the timekeeping of this 1948 pocket watch? There is a photo of the watch on timing machine, right? It's a 0, plus 1 second a day, because
In one position, you can almost get any watch to be 0. So, as long as you don't move it. It's
right.
fine.
So it is relatively easy to adjust a balance wheel and regulator to read 0 when the watch is stationary, right?
Yep.
How it performs in a pocket, who knows? Probably not that well. Right, so we're a little bit sentimental today. I think for a reason. I'm still thinking about this mass migration, people leaving their homes, starting life
Yeah.
in 1,000 kilometers away and never returning back to Moscow. Would that happen today to us? You said.
You'd like to think not, but I guess it's always possible, when the government requires something of you and your skill set is such that you're very important, and especially today with the watchmaking industry, you're probably very rare, especially considering that, when you hear watchmaker, you're probably not making watches. There's very few watchmakers that actually make watches. So, that's, in short supply.
2 points to make. Number one, a watchmaker, a machinist, a technician is an asset to a nation.
Yep.
We need to train here in Australia more watchmakers. Number two, this video is of direct benefit for you. Why?
Well,
If someone walks in,
yeah. Well, if someone walks in and their watch has 443 or Chicha, I go, yeah, I know what this watch is. I know the history behind it, It's we're in the business of multi-generational transfer of skills and knowledge. It's not just knowledge in actual watchmaking. You really have to understand the history of, especially these really important events, to be a sort of a working component in your own industry. So, yeah.
thank you for watching this video. If you like to leave a comment, please do so. If you're Russian, go and look for your heritage. Buy your church's watches, keep them. There's nothing wrong with having a Rolex and Omega and everything modern, but you must preserve your heritage.
Yeah.
And thank you for watching. We will do a follow-up video on
Yeah.
Russian pronunciation. I think I offended a lot of people saying that Zarya is a lady's name.
Oh, okay.
I did say it's sunrise, but apparently there is no Zarya
There's no Zaria, okay.
in
It is
Russian.
a lovely name.
Yeah, in Serbo-Croatian is Zora,
Okay.
meaning sunrise, Zorica, Zorana, or male Zoran. But
okay.
unfortunately, Russian are yet to make connection between beautiful sunrise and
Yeah.
a beautiful lady's name.
Okay, fair enough.
Again, thanks for watching. Do subscribe to our video and happy horology.